It's a belief in the value of the past to inform future development. And it also, I will add, is not about stopping change. I think the most common misperception of historic preservation is that it's about stopping change, when in fact it's about the thoughtful, well-informed management of change. And that's what preservationists bring to the table, an awareness of existing context and resources so that the change which we know is going to occur occurs thoughtfully and carefully and in a well-planned manner.
That's such an excellent definition.
So well put.
So well put in the value
Yeah.
of it. That we care about others and that we care about the human experience. I mean,
Right.
people are gone. I was watching the History Channel the other day, and they actually said about King Tut, and as they put his sarcophagus back, I guess where it originally came from, they said there's an old saying in Egyptian, when you say the name of those who have maybe been dead quite a long time, I'm paraphrasing, when you say their name, you breathe life back into them.
Mm-hmm.
So just by uttering the name of an ancient that has passed away, you breathe life back into them. And I think that it's that ongoing, you're remembering those that came before, and you're better for it. So,
Absolutely.
But now, and then nationally, can you talk about maybe, there are other, there's cities and states that have long time seen the value of historic preservation, and that's had a relationship to their economic well-being.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely linked to economic revitalization, community development. In the 1930s, for the first time in this country, citizens in cities like Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans established historic district commissions. They recognized that by collective will, they would subject themselves to governmental review of these designed environments for the betterness of all. And shortly after Charleston and New Orleans came Beacon Hill and the Back Bay and Nantucket in Massachusetts, Natchez, Mississippi, Santa Fe, New Mexico, places that Americans love to visit and which resonate powerfully with all of us. And these are the areas of the country that first recognized that design review and historic district ordinances could play a meaningful role in protecting these special environments. So it's no mistake that some of the places that Americans love to visit most are those that have actually understood the value of preservation in their cities for the longest period of time.
I so agree. I mean, when you think about the places you want to see in the world, and now they have the World Heritage Sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who travel, who are going
Right.
to make that effort and spend their resources, where do they want to go? They have a list. And of course, on top of that list is going to be places like Rome and Italy and maybe even Egypt. You want to see
Mostly
the
historic sites.
historic sites. And so over time, they continue to attract and not just be a blip, in the tourism, in the tourist eye. So, was it Fromer who said when a place loses its spirit, it'll lose its tourist.
Absolutely.
Right? I think
Right.
I can't remember, but
Sure.
yeah, Tonia.
Well, and I think from a personal level, on what historic preservation means, I think is, for me, I sort of never really had any, I'm just a typical local girl, so I never had any real interest, no real big interest in history until I started taking architecture. And then all of a sudden, like the actually being in a place and just seeing the detail and trying to figure out why did they do that or how did they come to that point, and what this tells me about a person in history was just, was just so great that it developed an interest in history, which I never had until that point. So that's why for me, I think, historic preservation is just really important. And I think that if people develop this ethic, like you're saying, the value system, this just the ethic of historic preservation, that's the key to, I think, everybody sort of understanding, instead of seeing it as a roadblock, that it's really, it should be something that everybody celebrates.
I couldn't agree more because, I tell people how I came to historic preservation, I just assume is when I went into the Ilani Palace as a youngster, just lighting up the thought that a palace was here in my hometown, right? And I saw that again with my own students when I taught at my MIA. And you know, you could go over as many times as you want something in text, but to see it, to walk it, to be in the home of that person just makes it so much more personal. Their eyes light up, and you know you've got them. You've got them for history. They want to learn history. They want to learn about what's going on in their world, and that's what we want as teachers, right? That's what sometimes I feel that there seems to be this ironic and illogical divide between art and people's perception of art and architecture. Architecture is art. And so we have that regard for art academy, but I think that it just we don't always consider a building art, but of course it's some of the greatest art that mankind ever makes, right?
Architecture is the only art form we inhabit.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's our home.
Right.
And it has a message, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
so many times you'll look at a building and you just feel that if there were a message that building was telling. For example, the Art Academy.
Yes.
That you're so it's a graciousness. You're welcome. It's breezy. It's a beautiful. That's a beautiful building.
Every visitor to our museum comments on how the architecture of the courtyards that Bertram Goodhue gave us in 1927 shapes their experience. It's a profound blessing for the Academy to have the architecture of that building. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've always felt the art isn't within an art piece of art.
Sure.
It is.
It is,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, and what were some of your favorite buildings? Right?
When I was growing up here,
Yeah.
or wow, gee, that's a hard one. Academy of Arts, of course. I love the Alexander Baldwin building, but like even just some of the mom and pop stores. Like you said, it instills a memory for you. So when you go back, it's not just the building; it's the whole memory. It's the smells, it's the sounds that you just remember from your childhood, and so what happens there is also important. Just like your first taste of candy or whatever. So that all becomes important, and that memory, whether it be instilled by just looking at an old storefront window or something like that,
it tells children that they're welcome, don't you
Right.
think? Or I mean, people in general. But I'm always thinking, how do kids feel about their own community? Do they feel welcome in their own community? That's so important in architecture, because if you have a straight wall, that's a message to a child, and so you wonder why they might go off into, youth camp or what have you, or just choose the wrong way. But when we had communities that shape us, saying, "Hey, you're welcome. Come into my store." Oftentimes, store owners, we have a beautiful antique store. I want to call it it is antique. John's store in Pu'unu'ililiha. And Archie, who's the owner of John's store, because he purchased it from the original John, takes care of these kids a lot of the time. I mean, they come up from and maybe they want to have something, and it's like the old days. If you don't have the money today, you have money tomorrow. It's that sense of community that can be conveyed in architecture.